welcome to the Dacotah Prairie Museum. You're just in time for our brand new exhibit, Frontier Main Street. Now hang on, because we're going to be transported back about 130 years to the first towns in this area and their main streets. And we're going to see what it feels like to live in a frontier town and to work and do business at all the stores and businesses. Follow me and come this way. We'll get started. The first business we're going to talk about are the hotels. Now, people were coming to Frontier Main Street before they lived there, or business people were coming and deciding if they wanted a business on these little town main streets. They would stay in a hotel. This is the beautiful Grand Hotel in Columbia, South Dakota. It was right on the banks of the James River. And it was in the day when the steamboats were going up and down the James River, and the people on the boats would stay in this wonderful hotel. Now, on Frontier Main Street, most of the businesses, and houses too, were only one story. That means they were only as high as the ceiling or the roof, just like this room is. But how many stories do you see in the Grand Hotel? It was very large for this time. Another wonderful hotel, which was very elegant, was the Wharf Hotel in Aberdeen. Now, the Wharf Hotel had a beautiful, fine dining room, but it also had something particularly special. And that was the Owlley Bakery and Candy Shop. We're going to visit there in a few minutes. First, we're going to come to the Tailor Shop in Frederick, South Dakota. The Strauss Tailor Shop was one where a gentleman or a boy could go and could be measured for a new suit of clothes just to fit them. They might have a fancy jacket like this one with satin lapels and beautiful satin buttons for an occasion of going to a hotel for lunch. Now, if you were a lady or a girl, you might visit the Warner dressmaker. In the days of Frontier Main Street, dresses were made just for you instead of going to the store and buying one. I like this blue one. What's your favorite color of dress? Maybe you'd like to try one on. This dress would be my length and my size so that it would just fit me when it was finished. And of course, ladies and girls also visited the millinery shop where you could get a fancy hat made just for you. My, I look good enough for the Easter parade. Now let's go back and see what happens in the candy shop. The Owlley Bakery and Candy Shop would be a place where you could put on a little striped apron and get a job decorating candies. Doesn't that sound like a fun job? Once you decorated these beautiful cakes and candies, you'd have to bake the bread because it was also a bakery. So you'd have all kinds of bread to serve with dinner. But let's take some of the fancy chocolates to eat with our tea. In the dining room at the Wharf Hotel and the Columbia Hotel and other big hotels, you would have a fancy place to eat. Fine linens, beautiful china, and of course, a crystal chandelier over your head. Try a candy. They're just for pretend. Now, if we're going to buy elegant clothes and eat in a fancy hotel, we're going to have some money. So let's keep going down Main Street to where the banks are located. This drawing of a huge 3-story building is called the Northwestern National Bank, and it was in Aberdeen. And I bet you don't know, you're standing in that building right now, because the Northwestern National Bank is now called the Dacotah Prairie Museum. This bank was was made to look like the Bank of Hecla. Hecla is a little town in North Brown County. How many people have ever been to Hecla? Well, the bank is open, I can see by the sign. So let's go in and see if we can get some money for the rest of our trip down Frontier Main Street. This picture on the wall tells us about the bank in Frederick. Can you see the cashier? And do you know who the bookkeeper might be? Well, the cashier is this gentleman with the visor. Sometimes people wore visors to protect their eyes, especially on a sunny day, from all their bookwork. So I'm going to put a visor on right now and pretend like I work in the bank. I'll seat myself on this little stool behind the window, and here's my cash box. These are the dollar bills I'll be using. They're called paper notes when they're made of paper, because in the days of Frontier Main Street, most people did their business with silver dollars. Now there are also coins, 10s, 5s, and 1s that you can use. We're going to need some money because we're going next to the land office and see if we can find some land that is just right for a business and a home on Frontier Main Street. Step this way to the Aberdeen land office. Now, there weren't very many land offices. In Brown County, there was only one, the land office in Aberdeen. And in the early days, there was only, the Aberdeen land office was the only one next to the Watertown land office. In many letters and in stories that we know that people walked all the way from Aberdeen to Watertown to file their land and be able to buy their homestead land. But today we're looking for a land for house and a house to build on Frontier Main Street. So I'm getting from the land office a deed. And it says, Land Office at Brown County. My house number is this. This is for my name. Has made payment in full for this house on Frontier Main Street. And it's signed the Commissioner General, Arthur L. Dennison. So that makes it official. So I'm going to fill this out as soon as I find a house. Now, what do you think of this house? It's all made of stones. And it's in Frederick, South Dakota. And what about this beautiful house? This looks kind of like a country house, but I love the stained glass windows. I really like a tall house with more than one story. What's your favorite kind of house? Ooh, look at this one. Now this is beautiful. I love the round spiral rooms on the corners. Number 7. I think I found my house. I'll write number 7. And I'll sign my name and say that I have made payment in full. I'm going to leave them all my money to pay for it, and I'm going to take my house to Main Street. Let's see, down here, too crowded, too many neighbors. How about here? This is just the right place for me. I'm going to give it a little press and it will stick to our felt board. But now it looks kind of lonely with too much space beside it. Maybe we should plant a tree. What do you think of this little tree? Let's put it right here beside our house. And maybe it could have a few leaves anyway. Might be spring. And how about a little grass? I think a yard always looks better with a little grass. So we'll put our grass right there. And there's our home on Frontier Main Street. Now suppose we want to start a business though. We can't just go and buy a ready-made business. We'll have to build it ourselves. So we'll have to take a quick trip to the Lumberyard. Almost every town in the frontier had a lumberyard. They were usually right beside the train tracks where the lumber could be easily unloaded and people could come to buy it. Take a look at this lumber wagon. This belongs to the Hollingsworth Hart Lumber Company. You can see it's right on a train car, a flat train car. And all this lumber, what do you suppose these men do for a job? Some of them have suits on. They might buy and sell and trade for lumber. Some of them have work clothes on, and they might have made this fantastic stack of lumber on top of this train car. But how do you think they got the dog up there? Well, let's go to Bath Lumber Company. Because the Bath Lumber Company was one of the many lumber companies in Brown County. I'm going to get some blocks, and I am going to build myself a nice little building on Frontier Main Street. Let's see, it could use some steps up to the front door. There. I think my business can be a bank. What do you think? You can make whatever building you would like out of the lumber company. Our last stop in this room is the library. Now this is the very first library that was made in Aberdeen. Take a look at the pillars. This is called Roman architecture. And it reminds us of very big and important buildings in Rome long ago. In Aberdeen, South Dakota, it was the first library built in 19. We'll pretend like this is our little library. And look at all the books of frontier living that you can read. They're very interesting and have a lot of great pictures too. I'd like to introduce you to my little friend, Owlley. Now, Owlley has a special book just about him. It's called A Lucky Dog. Owlley was a very special mail dog. He protected the packages that were on the trains and actually traveled thousands of miles on the trains. You can play with Owlley if you like, but we'd like you to sit down in this little library and read a few good books about Frontier Main Street. Now we are going to go to our second room, which is the Hellenberg Education Room, which has more stops on Frontier Main Street.